And again, highlight, the local access channels and give them a point of contact rather than, they happen to see our faces and say, aha.
Absolutely, right, absolutely. But again, you need to be on the same page with us so that when they do see you and say, aha,
Right.
that you say, this is how we handle this.
That's great.
Mr. Chair.
Sean, and then you, Jeff.
I think Steve has a great idea, but I think the repeated problem has been just the audio has been too low. I think when you're hearing from people that it's too loud, it's because they're switching from the local cable access to a regular channel. Is they have to turn their volume up so high when they listen to the local cable access channel that when they switch over, that's when, it's happened to me. I thought the windows in my house were gonna blow out.
Well, the problem.
So I think
the
that, if we can solve that problem.
Agatha Morano, and I'm on the board for NORCAM. I can't hear some of you, and I'm sitting in this room. You need to pull the microphone in and speak more clearly.
Am I close enough?
We need some lessons, Agatha, on how to project. Thank you.
And
I know. She's still chastising.
My rebuttal to that would be this. We have a test twice a year that tests the audio. We are within the parameters set by the Federal Communications Commission. And so, in other words, when we test our equipment and it tells us everything's fine, if everything isn't fine at your house, we need to know that. We need to know where that house is, because I can hear it fine at my house.
Well, I know that's the,
We watched at the studio on
It's the
Bow
con-
Street, and we hear
it's-
it just fine.
it's the
Both
continuous
meetings.
I also heard the reruns are better than the live.
Right.
The reruns, I hear very few complaints about.
Now, see, this is all conflicting
Well,
reports.
they-
Too
from
quiet,
what-
too loud,
think-
and then the
No, but
replays,
from what I'm
you
hearing
know?
from people is, in the reruns, it's better.
I'm going to interject
But-
because I
Sure.
think what's being proposed
But I think you're right.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
I
what
think
we-
it does.
You know, clearly there's an audio problem, whether it's somewhere.
Right.
Right. And I think this is a great idea to get to the bottom of it.
Yep.
Right? The problem is, can you get the public to cooperate and
Well,
commit themselves
I
to providing
think
the information?
I think if you give them the impression that
Jeff,
you're
I-
going to take care of it, then you can't.
Right.
So if you give them if everybody takes a hard line and says, we have a system in place to track this down, because their data is really important to us ultimately fixing the problem. So what I'm here to suggest is that we need to collect all that data until we solve the problem.
Jeff? you
Yes, I
wanted
feel
to
like
make
the
a
kid
comment.
in school.
I'm sorry.
Mr.
All right.
All right.
That's the problem, sitting way over.
I'm in the hinterlands here. I think to build on what Steve was suggesting, can you put on the bottom of your of the show, just simply say, if you are having
Actually,
a
there's a
problem with
slate
this
that airs
audio.
at the end of every program, and actually on our bulletin board.
No, I
it states-
understand that.
No,
but
no, I'm just telling you,
while
that
they're
system's already in place.
While they're watching our show, our meeting,
Actually, we
if it
can't.
says it, you can't?
The nature of the way the iNet's wired, when a live signal happens at Town Hall, or a live signal happens at any of the other remote locations,
Can't
being the middle school or the high school, that feed directly from that modulator overrides our programming. Because back in the day, when there was no one running the cable system, when it was Comcast Run or Media One or whoever the previous incarnations were, there was no one there to turn off that signal. So there would just either be black, static, or color bars, which would drive viewers just as crazy as having a bad signal. So that's why, that's the nature of the iNet. We've gone into,
So you can't put the writing down
Correct.
down below that because of
correct,
that?
correct.
That's odd.
And
can
that may,
you-
you know,
Can you prior to the
Right, not while it's live, on the replay, sure.
on the replays?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it on
Well, you have
replays
to,
as well.
well,
Oh,
in that due respect, changing the rebroadcast of that would constitute us editing the meeting. I'd rather have your permission. I'd feel much more comfortable adding that in with your blessings, basically.
yeah, you basically probably
Because
should
otherwise, we're altering a
take
public record.
make a
You-
motion
you-
and,
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but in the legal sense, we are altering a public record.
I'll make a motion right there.
Amen, all right.
Blessing, go for it.
I second it.
What is the term of that? What do they call that when they
A
put
crawl.
I'm sorry?
A crawl.
I make a motion that no can be allowed to put a crawl on the rebroadcasting of the Board of Selectmen meetings.
Yeah, second that.
Second.
Sure.
Motion from Mr. Yule, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Opposed? Unanimous.
And the other thing that you reminded me to mention is that the other thing we're gonna do, because we're not open 24/7, is we're gonna change the outgoing message on our phone. So if somebody calls after hours, there'll be a way for them to, get in touch with us. And so that we actually will be able to log that inquiry as well.
Right, like a dedicated voicemail box in our system.
Rob,
Yep.
in listening to your report and reading your report, because we've got
Mhm.
a copy of it in advance, first of all, I think it's very comprehensive.
Thank you.
I do want to bring up a concern, and I know you are meeting with the school building committee of the architect tomorrow morning at 10, I
Yep.
think. I'm concerned about this because somewhere along the line, there's going to be this disruption, and it's going to be planned so that there isn't a disruption.
Actually, we're at an advantage, because the high schools we moved into the new building, making that building operational. The middle schools will be moved into the current high school, still keeping the hub there. That actually gives us a great advantage, because the room can be built. We can probably have a blackout of maybe an afternoon of moving the equipment physically over there. Unless we get brand new equipment, that'd be ideal. I would so love to have new cable cast equipment and iNet connectivity.
My
I'm just,
concern is, in looking at your capital, is something that you should take to the meeting is, the iNet's gonna be moved at some point in
Mhm.
time, or at least the connection. The school has been the hub. I
Correct.
don't know whether that's the right thing or the wrong thing, and
No,
I'm not
that's
trying to
right.
pass judgment on it. There's some cost involved. Whose budget is it in?
I believe in the agreement, they're supposed to keep the high school connected. That was the initial thing, when they initially first came in, they connected, the
Yes, but
Hillview.
there's equipment in the high school
Correct.
that either Norcam owns or
Actually, the cable
Verizon
company
or
owns it. Yeah.
or Comcast owns. So I think this, my concern is more of coordination and making sure that there's no gotcha at the last minute associated with paying for whatever needs to be done.
I've been through this process before in the city of Woburn, so I'm quite familiar with the process. I was part of the new Woburn High School project. I made sure that there was enough fiber lines run separate from the entire school's networking. I made sure that there was proper throughways for all the cabling to be run. So I am familiar with it. And like I said, the one advantage we do have is that both buildings will be functional and operational. So even in that year span of a transition, we have a year to figure that out. That said, tomorrow morning, I have a gentleman by the name of Gene Looney from Comcast meeting with myself and then the architects and designers of the new building at 10 a.m. If you want to attend, sure, why not?
Mr. Yule?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I have two questions.
Sure.
Earlier in your presentation, you mentioned you broke down the iNet expenses, the facility development and growth, and the capital equipment funds. You divided it all in three, so it's...
Speak up, please.
Okay.
Not into the microphone, out loud.
Okay, well, it's my voice. You divided the total cost of, what was it, $375,000?
$343,036.96.
And you broke it down between iNet, facility, and capital equipment. You just, was that just randomly divided by
No,
three? Or
no,
you
actually,
anticipate-
ideally, I'd like to have more in each category, but that's all we have. And just for
No,
the
I don't
sake
mean
of
that. I mean, so your reason for dividing it
into thirds,
into
yeah,
thirds
that's
is just,
a good
Okay.
base starting number. I mean, ideally, I'd love to have 300,000 for iNet related
well, I understand that,
costs.
but do
I'd
you,
love to have 200,000 to be able to pay for carpentry, electrical services, should we ever need them. And
But-
I'd love to have, I'd love to have another
that-
500,000 for
I
equipment.
know, and me
Yeah.
too. But
So,
But my
That's our
question
starting
is,
point.
my question really is, do you see yourself taking funds from one to the other to cover those other expenses, or is this a dedicated approach that you have?
should need be, and we have to steal from Peter to pay Paul, we'll have to do it. I mean, if a project like fixing the iNet has to get done, and it's gonna cost, say, 200,000, well, obviously, I'm not gonna hit you guys up for $200,000. We should
But
be able
does
to be
it,
responsible
okay,
for
then
that.
does it negatively affect one of the other three?
Oh, yeah, it'll definitely negatively, why wouldn't it negatively affect?
I don't
it?
know,
I'd be stealing from Peter to pay Paul, you're stealing from Peter.
But are you saying that you spend all this money every year, or you just
No, that's
building up-
savings, that's
That's savings,
strictly
okay.
for, say there's a massive event where we lose half the town, and we have to cover that expense. I mean, where's that money gonna come from? Obviously, we have something put in place where we set aside.
I'm
or-
just trying to understand your plan of using the money. That's all I'm
Right,
trying
oh
to
yeah,
do.
no, that's it. I mean, ideally, like I said, this is just our starting amounts. As time goes by and we can save up a little here and a little there, or if we should get another set of startup grants, or we should get any sort of capital grants or apply for grants to continue what we got saved, that'd be great. But I mean, it is what it is. We have $343,000. This is
That's
ideally
fine.
the
I'm
good
not
starting point.
challenging the
Yeah, no,
numbers.
no,
No,
I'm
not
just
at
saying,
all.
like,
Not at all.
you know.
Do you have a ceiling for these numbers? We have funds in town that we have ceilings on, okay?
Right.
That we keep, all right? And if we exceed that, then we'll do whatever we feel we need to do with when we exceed that amount. These funds are designed to cover certain expenses under
Correct.
these three categories.
Correct.
All right? Again, if you feel that there's a need, I mean, right now, apparently, to me, you don't see a need to use these funds. That's just
It's
just
earmarked
excess.
for those
Okay.
purposes, correct.
Okay, and you have no costs in those areas right now.
Actually, we do. Capital Equipment Fund's gonna give us studio cameras. That's probably gonna come out to about $70,000.
Okay, and that's under that 115. But if it exceeded that, you would have had to have gone to the capital fund, equipment fund, or the INET fund, right?
Correct. Or
Okay.
I could wait till another fiscal year and reevaluate our equipment budget.
All right, so
So-
right, okay, so.
There are other ways of padding that number where it's capital equipment. You know, we do an equipment budget as shown in the budget I presented you gentlemen with.
Okay.
And, you know, we're currently using that to purchase more audio equipment for field use, wireless equipment, field recorders, et cetera. Now, in the event that we don't spend that money, probably that leftover, that surplus, like a good fiscally responsible organization should do, would put that into the capital equipment fund.
Great, okay.
But I mean, again, you know, God forbid a tree hits the side of the
I
cabin and
don't
we
need to
have to
explain
pay a
any-
carpenter to fix it. Well, we'll
You
pay
don't-
for that,
You
know?
don't need to explain any further.
Yeah.
I understand that. Now, the other thing I wanted to
Sure.
just say, they run a fantastic program over there. The youth services is constantly coming in there. People from town are coming in there. I'm using it. It's a really good program. It's almost like a good meeting place, like the library is a meeting place. You can come in there, you can film something, you can use their equipment. So, you know, there is really a payback that we are benefiting within the community with what they're doing there. It's really great when I come in. Or maybe not so great when one of the little kids are taking up my spot, but that's another thing. But you know, you see these young kids out there, and they're getting very excited. They're learning a profession right
Right.
there,
Right.
and it's really fantastic. So I think we need to acknowledge what the service they're bringing to this town with this program. It's not your old-fashioned community program anymore.
Right.
It's really fantastic. So
Thank you,
I just
Jeff.
wanted to
Thank
let
you.
Well, thank
know
you,
that.
Jeff. Mr. Frisco.
Are we gonna go through the budget? Are you gonna go through the budget?
I didn't realize we were gonna talk about finances tonight. We could if we wanted to, but
First of all,
I thought we were just talking about more
the
outreach.
role of the board and their responsibility, and the agreement that we have is not to oversee their budget. Our concerns are
I don't wanna oversee it.
strictly, no, let me finish. The purpose of the review and the agreement was to assure that the programs and what they're providing to the community met our expectations, period. How they go about doing it.
Insolvency, yeah, insolvency, that's all, yeah.
How they are going about doing it, it's up to their board and their Cable Advisory Committee, which interfaces with their board, and the Cable Corporation itself to provide those services. Our role is to assure the community is getting what
Right.
is needed, what's expected from, because the community is paying for this, you know, through a 4.25%, I think,
Franchise fee, right.
charge on their cable bills.
No,
Yes,
I
go ahead.
understand that. I had a couple questions related to it because, like in their salary budget, it's almost $50,000 more this year than they had last year. So I was just curious
Oh,
about.
we had two staff people go
Yeah,
full-time.
that's all. So
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay,
asking.
okay.
So you're gonna
That's
add
all.
two people, and
Okay,
are we gonna
fine,
have
fine.
some new programs? What are these two new staff people gonna do versus last year? You know, what they're
Right.
gonna do this year? I mean, 50,000 is a lot of money, so I'm just curious.
Right. They're gonna help continue the services we already provide to the community and actually have, you know, it's tough when you're basically the only full-time person. I mean, imagine yourself doing what I do pretty much by yourself, which was the first 2 years of NORCAM, you know? And then last year's budget, I was able to afford 2 part-time